welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, as always, is Josh Mansfield. And before we get into the meat of today's show, I just wanted to announce that we are going to be doing a subscription giveaway. I have up to 5 full 1-year subscriptions to Multi-World Disc Golf, which of course gets you all the benefits of Upshot bonus segments, including our live reaction shows. We had a great one on Sunday after the Texas State Championships. And all you got to do to be entered for a chance to win is send us an email, upshot@ultiworld.com, and let us know what you think about the show. And if you have any segment ideas for us to pursue in the future. Basically, we're looking for your thoughts and reviews. And to be honest, it's probably going to be some kind of randomness to this, but I also might pick winners just based on emails that I particularly like. Sending in how much you love it and like not having anything else to say but how much you love it. I mean, we appreciate it, but ultimately here, I'm looking for constructive criticism. So if there are things that you don't like about the show or that you think we should do better or segments that you would recommend that we try, that's going to put you towards the top of the list for getting a win. And all you got to do is send an email. So upshot@ultiworld.com. We've got 5 annual subscriptions to give away. And of course, if you want to become a subscriber and you don't want to send an email, we appreciate that too. You can go to discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. So the Texas State Championships are in the books, and we have 2 brand new winners for 2022. And sorry to spoil it for you, but it's the 2021 Players of the Year, Ricky Wysocki and Paige Pierce, getting their first wins of the new season. And Josh, it was certainly an interesting tournament, with particularly on the MPO side, Ricky having to fight from behind, doesn't take the outright lead until midway through the back 9 of the final round and closes out the win as Paul McBeth and Calvin Heimberg fall away.
It was really excellent play from Ricky. One that I think you could tell he was extremely motivated this weekend. In past weekends, he's played well. Ricky's always going to be gunning for the win. As we know, this is his 6th time winning the Texas State Championship. He's won all 6 times that he's competed in it. This one felt a little different as Ricky was chasing down and then holding onto that lead with Calvin, just as you watched him play, kind of a determination in his eyes that you knew he was going to be gunning for that. And all it took was one rough putt from Calvin where it hits band inside circle 1. And it felt like, that just allowed Ricky to walk through the door, and Ricky didn't look back.
So we're going to do something a little different today. Rather than just kind of go through storylines as they come up and talk about it like we normally talk about a tournament, we are going to go through some stats and let that be the way that we talk about this event. So there's so many people doing cool stuff with stats. I hope that people put us in that camp, but certainly Statmando has tons of great work, and PDGA Stats over on Twitter doing awesome stuff. So we've got a bunch of stats compiled here, and we're going to take you through them and give a look at this tournament from a statistical perspective. So let's start with Ricky, because this is a pretty impressive performance this weekend, and this is courtesy of Statmando. This weekend was the 4th time Ricky has come back from a 2-stroke deficit going into the final round to win the event. The last time he did this was 2021 Ledgestone. Of course, that was kind of a weird one. He ended up tying with Calvin Heimberg because they didn't play the final round. The other 2 wins came after playoffs at the 2016 Majestic and the 2017 Beaver State Fling. And this was his 9th time going into the final round with a 2-stroke deficit. So he's only done it 4 times in 9 tries, which kind of shows you, for a player of Ricky's caliber, how difficult it is to make up ground on players in front of you. And I think it makes it that much more impressive this weekend.
I'm curious to know, of those other 5 times, how many times it was Paul McBeth. Because chasing down Paul McBeth with a 2-stroke lead is like chasing down anybody else with a 6-stroke lead. So I'd really be interested in that. But, Steve reached out to me on Discord, sent me this and a couple other stats. And I think it's really interesting to see that it really does confirm the way that Ricky played this weekend and coming back was one with a determination that, while he has done in the past, is something that we could expect to see a little bit more often from Ricky, just given the nature of how well he plays. And so this was really a truly exceptional performance from Ricky this weekend.
How about this, Josh? This is the first time that a Dynamic Discs sponsored MPO player has won an Elite Series event. And you kind of when you say you first hear that, you're like, nah, that can't be right. And this is from PGA Stats over on Twitter. Great get. And then you're like, well, wait a minute. No, that does make sense. Like, who has been the elite level player on DD that's won? Now you go back in time and like when they were still just an apparel company and like, I don't know, maybe it gets a little more murky back then, but like as a disc company, no one's won before. And this is why DD did what they needed to do this offseason and paid a top 3 player. That's why, right there.
So my one question then, when did they become a disc company?
Mid 2010s. I don't remember exactly.
Well, because Eric McCabe won the Dynamic Discs Open in 2018.
But he didn't win the DDO and the MPO. He must have won an age protected division.
It says Open.
McCabe in 2018?
That's
Dynamic Disc Open wasn't an Elite Series.
Oh, that's what. Okay, so that must have been it. Yeah,
maybe it was
there was not a well attended field.
It used to be GBO.
Okay. That's right. Yep, you're right. It was the name switch that got me. Because I knew I'd seen something on Eric McCabe earlier and I wanted to check it. Because you're right. When you think of like the DD guy, Eric McCabe, obviously, who is a big face and a
former Elite Series champ.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Yep. And then you have Eric Oakley, who was another kind of face of Dynamic Discs for a long time, but not an Elite Series winner. Ricky's contract is paying dividends.
What else you got on Ricky here?
So from Ricky, remember we were talking about his putter having an issue? Not this weekend. In 2021 and 2022, Ricky made 97 of his 98 Circle 1 putts at Texas States, thanks to PGA Stats for that one.
Wow.
One missed Circle 1 putt in 2 years at this tournament.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. Staying on sort of the top of the leaderboard, this is just the third time that Calvin Heimburg has gone into the final round at an Elite Series event with an outright lead. The previous 2 times he won. He loses this one. And to be honest, it feels like he lost this one in the same fashion that we've seen from him the last however many months. It's just like he's so close to putting it all together, but like a couple of key mistakes takes him out of the running. And, whether you want to say it was the putt off the band or if it was the drive that was too low on 17, at that point he'd already given up the lead. Just too many missed opportunities. And, I think you got to tip your cap to Ricky, who, shoots a tie for the hot round. Mm-hmm. But you also have to recognize that, like, as Calvin Heimburg, when you have a two-stroke lead spotted to you, that, you should win that. Like, that is yours to lose, and he lost it.
Mm-hmm. If Calvin had won this, imagine if Calvin played the exact same round, but Ricky had a couple more mistakes, and Calvin ends up winning it. I'm curious if we had been talking about it as Calvin did everything right, or if Calvin played good enough to hang on. Because, Ricky's round felt exceptional. It felt, amazing.
And it wasn't perfect.
Maybe it wasn't perfect. But it really, I don't know. Calvin's just felt like something was missing there.
Well,
he didn't have a secret sauce, man.
This is the, he goes OB on 6
mm-hmm.
and bogeys. Then he hits an 80-footer on hole 7 to birdie. And then he's out of position on hole 8 on the par 4, doesn't hit the circle 2 putt to save par, and takes another bogey. And I feel like that encapsulates Calvin Heimberg's game right now. It's like small mistake, insane thing that like only he is doing, and then small mistake, you know? And it's not, you know, those were only his only 2 bogeys, but that was basically the margin in this. And he missed a putt from circle 1 and Ricky didn't.
Yep.
Like that's the margin. It's small. It shouldn't, it doesn't feel fair. I mean, he shot a 7 under. That was the 5th best round of the day. It's not like he played bad. It's not like he had a Macbeth round 2, and we'll get to that. It's just he hasn't quite been able to put it all together in some time now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he's a consistent top 5 type guy. It's just that when the little mistakes continue to crop up or the putting is not quite there, although he had a great putting weekend overall, it's just, you know, I don't know whether you want to call it. There's an argument in the Discord right now, in the Ultra World Disc Golf Discord, about, you know, is Ricky clutch? Is there some kind of killer instinct that drives him, guys like him and Macbeth, to win as much as they do, or are they just the superior golfers? What do you think, Josh?
You know, that's something I've been kind of thinking about and trying to decide, because the stats that I think are the most telling in this final round aren't the putting stats. Missing a circle 1 putt is not going to, I mean, in most cases, unless it's...
We can't make the whole tournament about the 1 putt, you know?
No, but let's look at the numbers for driving in that final round. Ricky was 89% fairway hits. Calvin was 67.
Right.
That's 22% difference in fairway hits.
Yeah.
Ricky is inside circle 1 61% of the time, inside circle 2 78% of the time. Calvin 44 and 56. I mean,
and let's just talk about the back 9.
Right.
Ricky finds 8 out of 9 greens, goes 7 under, no bogeys. Calvin, not quite as good.
Yep.
He only finds 6 out of 9 greens. He also goes bogey free, but misses that putt on 13. And so Ricky picks up the 2 strokes that takes him from behind by a stroke to winning the tournament by a stroke. Mm-hmm. And like, you want to call that clutch? I mean, that's pretty clutch.
It's pretty clutch.
Like it's not like Ricky was absolutely perfect, but you know, his par on 17, a very difficult birdie anyway. Did anybody even birdie it on the final day? There were 3 birdies. Shout out to Kevin Jones, Albert Tom, and Christopher Farnham. Hell yeah, dude. You know, Calvin Heimberg's drive didn't even put him in a position to have a chance to get a birdie, right, even though it's difficult. Like, so you call that almost unbirdieable hole. So Ricky gets almost all of them except on 14. Mm-hmm. And sure, Ricky's a great player, but it seems pretty clutch. And he clutched up crazy in the end of round 2 to even be in a position to fight back and win the tournament. So I know there's all this discussion about, like clutch isn't a real thing. But I mean, when Ricky goes, birdie, 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 birdie on 15 to 18, including back-to-back 50-footers at the end of round 2, and then he goes 7 under in the back 9, head-to-head against Calvin Heimberg in the highest pressure spot, and Calvin has a couple missteps. Like, is it that Calvin is worse than Ricky as a golfer? I'm not really convinced of that. I really do think there's something to these top players who win a disproportionate amount of the time having the ability to execute as well or better than they do in a normal situation when the pressure is on the most and they have to get birdies to win.
I think one of the biggest things that stands out to me when you watch Ricky and Paul when pressure is on the line, because in round 1, Paul hits an 80-footer and, it's just business as usual to him. You can tell he takes it seriously. This is his job, and that's what he does. But when you get to final round, or when he has a really bad or just like blow up round, you can begin to see the emotion seep through, right? You can see the frustration. He's kicking dirt, he's kicking discs. And then when he's doing really well, I mean, no one can forget the USDGC roar after he hits that putt in the playoff. There was just raw emotion. Ricky, never been accused of hiding his emotions when it comes
to
playing, right?
Jacked after winning this weekend.
Oh yeah, and when you watch the Raptor legs, I mean, he's known for his celebration, right? For his after a big putt, that's what he's known for. I have never seen something like that out of Calvin. Like, you occasionally see the smallest bits of frustration, but you never see when he hits a big putt. It's just another putt to him, and I think that's a little bit of a disadvantage.
That's an interesting take.
Like, where's the momentum? Where's the energy? Where's the, like, when you're a competitor and you see Ricky Raptor legs running it down as he's running down your 2-stroke lead, that has to be in your head. And when Calvin hits the putt to, keep a lead, for example, or to do the same thing or extend the lead, and he just walks up and picks up his disc, you think, okay, that's fine. I can do that too.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna disagree with you here, and here's why.
All right.
If you're playing against somebody who's just an ice cold killer, and they smash, an 80-footer, like he hit that crazy one, like the lofty C2 putt in round 2 as he took the lead, that he surprised even himself by hitting, like. And he actually showed like at least a little bit of energy on that one. Like, he ran it down, but he's just an ice cold killer. And that is intimidating. Like, if you're like, this guy won't miss, God damn it. And like, then he just like slowly walks over and pulls his disc out of the basket after he just canned a 60-footer. To me, that's just as impactful as a big celebration. Think Kawhi Leonard. Okay. Kawhi Leonard. The only time I've ever seen that dude go crazy is when he hit that insane shot in the playoffs in Toronto. And, it bounces on the rim 3 times and then goes down. And, anybody who's Canadian knows what I'm talking about right now.
If it follows NBA should know what you're talking about.
But the thing is, he's a stone cold killer. And, I know he's been dealing with the injuries and whatnot. But, like, when he's been at his best, I think he's like... At points, I think he's been like the best player in the league for stretches of time. And that is a scary thing to be dealing with when you just have an assassin out there. So I get your point. Trust me, I get your point. I just don't know that I agree with it. I think that you can still have that momentum factor without being extroverted about it.
And I agree. But here's the one counterpoint that I'm going to make. And then I agree there's like there's truth to both sides. In a basketball arena with tens of thousands of fans that are just roaring, to have someone who stands in the middle of all that chaos in perfect control is terrifying. In a disc golf course that is significantly more reserved by nature, Calvin feels less out of place than he would in a basketball court. Ricky and Paul, that roar from Paul, I'm never going to forget that. Like, that was just, it's a kind of emotion that it's the same thing when you see like Tiger after a big win and his cheers and shouts. Like, those are the times that I really kind of stand out to me, because that's just not the nature of golf in general. And I know we're having kind of a debate in the disc golf world that appears every now and then about what disc golf should be and how we should want our fans to act and the kind of feel of our game. But Calvin feels more in place in this realm than Kawhi does in his. And I think that there is something to be said about watching Ricky run down the Raptor legs and hearing the fans cheering and Ricky pumping him up and being a part of that feels like things turn in his favor a little bit. So,
all right.
Truth to both sides. I'm interested to see what others think.
Yeah, let us know. Upshot@ultiworld.com. Calvin Heimberg has still never won an event of any tier in the state of Texas. He's played 8 tournaments in Texas in his career, 6 on the Elite Series, 2 Silver Series events, and he has not won one of them. So, I'm not really sure what to make of that.
Don't pick
he's
Calvin
pretty new.
in Texas.
He's pretty new to touring. That's what I make of it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Paul McBeth. Incredible round one.
Yep.
12 under, 2-shot lead. Just looks totally dialed.
Mm-hmm.
And then lays an absolute egg in the next round. Here's your stat. His 1005 rated round 2 was his worst round since the 2020 Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship semifinals, where he shot 1002 rated. And if you remember his terrible round at Idlewild last year, when he looked like he just gave up, that was only 1007 rated. So it's still slightly better than what he put together in round 2 at Texas State's. Now, secondary stat. I looked it up. I had to do this manually, so it's possible I'm wrong, but I went through the entire history of his playing career. From what I can tell, he has never shot 1080 or better at a tournament and followed it up with something under 1010 in his whole career. He's never done it. Now, he did once in Masters Cup 2019. He shot 1078 first round and 989 second round. So that's obviously close to being what I'm talking about here. But this is a very rare circumstance for McBeth to play great in round 1 or earlier in the tournament and then, lay an egg. In fact, if you go through and you look at his results, a lot of times he's playing his best golf in the final rounds of tournaments. What the heck happened to Paul McBeth in round 2?
I'm honestly not really sure how to talk about Paul McBeth's season anymore. Because going into this tournament, when I put him on my podium, I say, this is one bad round isn't going to keep me from picking Paul McBeth, from having, as you said, his best start since 2012 ratings wise. So one bad round, everyone has one of those, so no big deal. This was weird. And now I don't really know how to handle it because he has three, not just like bad rounds, but atrocious rounds. Like 12 stroke difference from round 1 to round 2 bad rounds. I don't know how to handle it, Charlie. I really don't know how you talk about a player whose season thus far has been that kind of a roller coaster at certain tournaments.
Yeah, it's been odd. It's been a little Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, a lot more. Gosh, I haven't read the book in so long. I don't remember. Which is the bad one? Jekyll? No, I think Jekyll's the good one, and Hyde is the bad one. Mr.
Hyde. It's Dr. Jekyll, right?
Yeah. Okay, so it's mostly
we are
Jekyll.
Scholars.
Mostly Jekyll and a little bit of Hyde. Like, not much Hyde. I mean, I think it's not like he's finishing in 15th at all these tournaments. Like, he literally had his best start round rating wise coming into Texas State's that he's had in 10 years. And then, he gets off to this incredible start and it felt like he was going to win the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who thought to themselves, he's not going to win this tournament after round 1? I mean, some, Ricky stans must have probably done that, but like most people were like, wow, McBeth just locked right now.
I was already calculating my pick points.
And then he just completely lost the touch of the disc off the tee in a way that you just don't really see from him. And he was so frustrated. Like, it was weird. It was like, it's funny because Paul McBeth's bad rounds are still 1,000 rated. Which don't we all wish we could be like that? But, he was doing stuff that felt like a high level version of what you do out on the course when you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hit the tree, like throw the upshot from trying to scramble and do a bad job and leave yourself at the edge of the circle or like outside of the circle. Now, obviously, he really kept himself alive in that round by hitting his putts, but it was still just, it was jarring to watch. And I do think that if there's one bad habit in Paul McBeth's game, it's that he sometimes gets into these funks in a round and he can't get out of them. That like it compounds and he goes on tilt a little bit. And who knows what's going on with that? I mean, I don't think this changes my thoughts on his, projections for the future of the season at all. But it is weird. It's definitely weird. I still think he, for me, feels like the favorite going into WR Jackson and Champions Cup. But this puts a little crack in the door, right? To see Ricky win, look really good, to see Calvin pick up the putting. Like now, whereas a couple weeks ago, we're talking about no one is even like chasing Macbeth right now. Who's putting pressure on him? Well, now there's pressure. And that's great for us as fans because now we get to go into Champions Cup and feel like it's a toss-up.
Paul had a zone upshot. I just saw it in the compilation replay of Macbeth's just kind of troubles. And he had a zone upshot that he flicks and it comes out of his hand at like 30 degrees right of where he was aiming. It's like, because, you could throw up shots that go a little long, that catch a tree on the left because you're going for a narrow gap. Literally looks like it fell out of his hand. And I'm like, I said to myself, I've done that before. And I don't say that very often when I'm watching Paul Macbeth. It was so weird. And I think you're right that, he gets into those funks. The hardest part for me to understand, though, if you look at the start to his round, right? He is edge of circle on hole one. Hole one, definitely not a gimme by any means.
Not at all. With the uphill
putt and the OB on the right. So he gets inside circle one, makes the putt. Hole two, center fairway, circle two, so a little bit short, and then misses a circle two putt. Okay, goes on a par stretch for a little bit. It's odd because if Paul Macbeth just doesn't even play well, but just salvages this round, right? Shoots a 10-20 or a 10-15, he's in contention going into round three that he could do well enough, right? But he bombed so hard to completely nullify all the work that he did in round one. And it's something that I think that I worry. I think in a 4-round tournament, that's the biggest reason he's still the favorite, right? Paul Macbeth mid-round may not be able to say, yep, I'm done being bad. That, maybe that's his weakness, as you said. But that means in a 4-round or in a 5-round tournament that because he can shoot the best round of the day and then the worst round of the day and then shoot the best round of the day again the next day, it still puts Macbeth as a favorite to win at a major.
4-round event too. So, all right. A couple other notes here from MPO. Greg Barsby, course designer, finishes in third. A little home cooking for Mr. Barsby on a set of courses he knows well, and obviously a layout that he personally designed, which is interesting. I've seen a little chatter about whether that should be allowed. Should current players be able to design the courses that they are competing on tour? It's an interesting topic. I feel like getting pro players' input, active current pro players' input, is actually pretty important right now for courses because the people who are designing courses, aside from the one or two people who are really talented at doing that and being able to sort of evaluate current pros' skills, you kind of need to get that feedback in some way. Whether players should be the ones actually designing the entire layout, well, I'm a little more skeptical about that. Anyway, here's your stat. His third place finish was his best at an Elite Series event since the Hall of Fame Classic in 2018, which of course is the same year that he won his first and only World Championship. It was awesome to watch Greg out here this weekend. And I'm kind of kidding about the home cooking thing. The thing is, Barsby played really well. He hit the fairways, he hit the lines, he was cashing his circle two putts, and sure, there's probably some impact to him having familiarity because he's from the area and knows the course that he designed, but also just the holes, how they are normally. There's probably some element of that. The same way that, I don't know, if we went to Florida, Calvin Heimberg would have an edge on a course that he's played 500 times.
Sure.
But I also just think like Greg played awesome. I mean, he was legitimately in contention to win the tournament there for a while. Just missed a couple putts in the final round that kind of took him out of having a chance to win. But awesome to see Greg back up at the top.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean, where did he finish at Worlds last year? I'm working on pulling that up. But
he did pretty well.
I think it was like 5th. Let me double check that real quick. 6th.
He's definitely in the top 10.
Yeah, 6th at Worlds. Like, you know, he can hang around. If there is a course that sets up well for his skill set, whether or not it's designed by him or it just happens to be good for his game, we'll let you decide. But in those worlds, Greg can hang. He can hang with the best, and it's awesome to see. I mean, he is always, as we say a lot, a fan favorite, and so good for Greg having a great weekend, and it was fun to watch him this weekend on coverage. You
got one for us, Josh?
Yeah, this one both makes my heart happy and it makes me laugh, because if you saw the Jomez practice round, I didn't watch the full thing, but you had like Big Germ and Yuli and Paige all in cowboy attire and like the cowboy hats, and I just thought to myself, it's like, man, good for those guys. Media is their thing now for Big Germ and Yuli. Like, they have really found their niche, because their tournament results have not been great lately. Well, Jeremy Colling coming out here and proving me wrong. His best finish since the 2019 USDGC. He had fewer birdie opportunities than any other player in the top 10, but he cashed in most of those chances, tallying 19 birdies on his 26 greens in regulation. So shout out to Big Germ for a great weekend. I'm curious. Yeah, I need to go back and look just kind of at all of his results, but you know, it was, I saw a lot of chatter about this. It was a good weekend for Innova. You had Calvin Heimberg in 2nd, Greg Barsby in 3rd, Joel Freeman in 4th, and Jeremy Colling in 6th. So good weekend for Innova from guys who at the beginning of the season we didn't talk about that much as being contenders for top 5, top 10s.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you know, it was a very interesting weekend for Colling, because he only had one hole that he shot over par on. So he was just so good at scrambling when he was out of position, avoiding OB, and getting the birdies when he had the chances.
Yeah.
Because, like, the problem is you can't expect this to be replicated, because he's just not giving himself enough birdie chances. Mm-hmm. But when he had them this weekend, he hit the putts. And it makes me want to come up with a new stat, which is like birdie percentage divided by greens and regulation percentage.
Okay.
So like, what is the ratio of times that you birdie or better compared to the opportunities that you have, you know, minus throw-ins or whatever? And like, that's sort of like a proxy for your putting. Mm-hmm. In some way, and maybe it's just like totally redundant with putting, but I think that's 19 for 26, like what a great ability to convert on your chances, and obviously a lot of those misses were from circle 2, so very cool to see Colling buck at the top. This isn't exactly a stat, but I'll make it a stat. Gannon Burr, Joel Freeman both get their 2nd top 10 of the season. And, you know, we got to talk about these. Like, they've been some of the better players to start this season. And they looked sharp this weekend. Gannon Burr was excellent off the tee. And Joel Freeman continues to play well.
Yeah, I mean, they really do. And Joel Freeman has to be someone I think is talked about when we go to WR Jackson. If his putt is on, and, you know, this weekend, 74%, that's not going to do it.
It's like, okay. Probably not good enough to win at WR Jackson, though.
No, definitely not. He has the highest fairway percentage, though, at 87%, up there with Greg Barsby. Next best was Ricky at 81%.
Wow.
His circle 2 in regulation was 74%. Top was sorry. Joel had 78% in Circle 2 in regulation, best of the tournament. Circle 1 in regulation, I mean, he is up there in the top 6 or 7 guys. So he's doing everything he needs to on the fairway and on the drives. His putting does need to get a little bit more consistent. I think Joel Freeman is going to benefit more from this break than just about anybody else. I mean, I know he's going to get to play Silver Series, but if he just locks in and says, I'm going to focus on putting for 3 weeks, and that's it, right? I'll continue to play, I'll continue to practice, but when I go to tournaments, I'm just measuring my putting abilities as my metric for how well I did. And he does that for 3 weeks. He could go into WR Jackson as being one of the podium favorites.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting.
One thing I wanted to mention. Yeah. So that stat you were talking about with birdie percentage over greens in regulation versus putting percentage. If you go to the player stats, Jeremy Colling had a 95% Circle 1X putting.
Sure.
Great stat, right? And then 40% Circle 2. So we look at those and we say great numbers. That number, though, of birdies versus greens in regulation ended up being about 74%. So while it is a little bit of a proxy, the putting metrics get bogged down by scramble as well. And you kind of eliminate and parse out the scramble percentage in order to identify just the true, are you taking advantage of your birdies? Because if you're missing putts on scrambles, that tells you something different. And I think it's a valuable stat and does give us some insight.
Take a look into it. See if we learn. At least if we learn anything. All right. So that is going to do it for our coverage of MPO. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking FPO. We have some great stats for you, and then we're going to get into our purse watch. Yes, we're going to take a look back at Belton and Texas States, see how they stacked up. Stick around. You're listening to The Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. And you know what? If you want to get the custom pack that you envision in your mind's eye, the pack of your dreams, you can do it at any time. Go to PoundDiscGolf.com and you can get your custom Octothorpe, your custom Octahall, your custom Carlton, your custom Toolbox, and their custom pack builders are now open all the time. No more waiting for drops or hoping that you get lucky. You can just go build your pack. You can tinker with it for a while before you hit the order button, but you can check it all out on their website and you can just design it exactly how you want, from the zippers to the main flap to the bottom of the pack, exactly what you envision. PoundDiscGolf.com. Welcome back to The Upshot. So Paige Pierce winning in FPO. It was a roller coaster final round, but she got through it. She got the key shots when she needed them and held off Kristen Tatar, who ended up blowing up with 2 OB strokes on 18. So the final scores look not as close as the actual tournament was. This is Paige Pierce's 70th Elite Series win in her career and her 30th Disc Golf Pro Tour win. So some round numbers for Paige Pierce. Will she get to 100 Elite Series wins in her career? Over, under, Josh? 99.5.
How many Elite Series? We have is it 12, 14?
Well, you got the 4 majors. You've got the, I think it's 12 DGPTs this year. So that's 16 tournaments a season.
So I'm going to average 15 because I know the schedule is going to change as we go. So she needs 30 more Elite Series wins, averaging 15 a season.
I think she won 7 last year.
Yeah. She would need to win. How old is Paige?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't either.
I think she's around 30.
Does she have 5 to 6 more seasons
of 5 to 6 wins?
Of 5 to 6 wins. That's a lot, man. And the FPO is only going to get better.
There's still no one in the division that can throw as far as she can.
And that's true. That's true. But in 5 years, you've got like 18-year-olds who are going to be in their athletic prime.
It's true.
I'm taking the under.
Okay, put it on the books.
I'm gonna do it.
We'll revisit in many years. Okay, so very impressive stuff from Paige Pierce.
Yeah,
and from a stats perspective, she just did it. She did it all. Like she was great putting. She was great tee to green. Like this was a vintage Paige Pierce performance. She could have pulled away and just completely crushed everybody. I mean, she was up by 5 strokes after round 2. If she played like she had in round 1 or even really round 2 in the final round, I think she wins this tournament like pretty comfortably without having to be sweating it on 18.
Right. Well, I mean, she leads the field in tee to green and in putting. In strokes gained. So it's clear that she was playing all around great golf. Again, though, tee to green does not take into consideration OB, which Paige had 6. The next highest, the next person with 6 is Holland Hanley down at 13th. Inside, the top 5, the next highest is Katrina Allen with 4, or Owen Scoggins with 4. So, I mean, not huge. It's not. We've seen tournaments with worse and more disparity between Paige's OB and others. But I think that's it, right? Play just a tiny bit cleaner and avoid the OB just a little bit more, and you've got it, right? Like it's unquestionable. Kristen's nowhere close to you. If those 2 OB strokes that she has in the final round, get rid of them. You're nowhere near Paige.
She's never having no sweat. She's just
exactly
play for par for the last 5 holes.
Right, and Kristen probably takes outright second because she doesn't have to go for it on 18, and because Paige is just literally on cruise control, coasting into the finish.
I mean, it's crazy on 18. Like Tatar's drive doesn't get the big skip; it skips kind of flat, and then it stays in off the curb. And Paige goes with the flare skip and gets it to clear the curb. But that's the difference. If Paige drives first, doesn't read the wind quite right, doesn't get a chance to watch Tatar throw, maybe she's the one who ends up OB, and Tatar throws a putter up, and those are the margins. This was way closer than it seemed. It really was. Yep. And it's not like Pierce's drive was guaranteed to get safe. It was a risky shot, and it worked. Pretty crazy. Now, I have a quick mulligan for you, which gets to another stat. You said that Paige led the tournament in strokes gained tee to green and putting. Half true. Well, and she was second in strokes gained from tee to green. And that's because in first, Josh, was Evelina Salonen. For the second tournament in a row, here's your stat. Evelina Salonen leads the tournament in strokes gained from tee to green and is dead last in strokes gained from putting. So I
didn't scroll far enough.
She was 16.7 strokes gained tee to green, basically equivalent with Pierce. And she was negative 17.7 strokes gained putting. Okay, that was 8 strokes worse than 45th place Daniel Wygant. Evelina finished in 27th place at 8 over par. Another stat. She missed 30 Circle 1 putts this weekend. 30!
That's insane.
Shut it down until you figure it out. That's what I would do. Or just completely stop caring about the results and just go out there and focus on just trying to be aggressive with the putter again. It's an untenable situation right now for Evelina Salonen. And it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch.
What do you mean, Charlie? She's never on coverage. She's too far down. Don't have to watch it. I'm fairway hits first, 83%. Circle 2 in regulation first, 63%. Scramble third, 50%. She is at this tournament third in scramble.
That's
at
crazy.
50%, and she can't make a putt. That stat usually depends on being a good putter. This is unreal. Third, Circle 1 regulation at 43%. It It's unreal. You ready for this, Charlie? I'm going to hit you with some season stuff. 78% fairway hits, first. 23% parked, first. 49% circle 1 in regulation, first. 68% circle 2 in regulation, first. 50% scramble percentage, third. 30% in birdie percentage, eighth.
Give me the putting stats.
I don't want them, Charlie.
I gotta hear them.
34% in circle 1X.
Is that like
47th?
47th. I mean, how many women are even on tour? Like,
I don't know.
That's basically last.
Yeah. 41st in circle 2 putting at 2%.
It's heartbreaking, honestly.
It is. Like, oh my gosh. It's amazing. Evelina with a mediocre putter could be talked about right now as being an unstoppable force.
Right,
on
the best player
division.
on tour. This is like Katrina Allen 2021 on like a lot of steroids. Like an aggressive amount of steroids. I mean, it's crazy. What's crazy is that the putting problems are not affecting other parts of her game. You know, it's one thing to do that at Waco and be like, wow, that's a crazy stat. First in strokes gained from tee to green and last in putting. To do it 2 events in a row, there's no way this has ever happened before in the history of disc golf. This is unprecedented. And I can't go back. We don't even have stats from before 2016 on like things like strokes gained. We can't go back. We don't know this for sure. But there's just no way it's possible.
Yeah.
There's no way it's possible. Shocking. And I hope she figures it out, because you're right. I mean, all she has to do is be she could be a Konopanis level putter and probably be winning tournaments.
Probably by winning tournaments by a couple strokes. Let's look at Konopanis, and let's not even give shout out to Konopanis, 10th place finish, best finish of the season.
First top 10 of the season.
Congratulations. Let's go to LVC, for example, where Kona did not play so well. Let's see, what was her putting there?
I don't think it was good, Josh.
Oh yeah, she missed cash. I have to go to round 3. She didn't make the cut. I forgot about that. That was rough.
What was the full tournament stats for her?
That's what I'm pulling up right now.
All right.
36% circle 1X, 0% circle 2. So
yeah, that's not good.
That's not going to cut it.
That's basically what she's been doing for the season.
Yeah.
Evelina.
But whatever. I'm curious. I would like to find some number that is meaningful in terms of how well like Evelina could be putting. That would be enough for her to be winning tournaments.
It's just like being able to hit the 15 to 20 footers. I mean, you don't even have to hit anything outside of 25 feet. You can miss all of them. But if you can just make the ones that are, inside of 25 feet with regularity, let's say hit 90% of those ones, that's enough. Mm-hmm. That's definitely enough. And you can't 5-putt holes, like that has to stop. That's where you're bleeding strokes in a major way. 30 circle 1 misses this weekend. It's just crazy. Like, anyway, let's talk about some more positive things.
The one thing I will say real quick, we would be arguing right now if Evelina is making a run for, could she become the next best FPO player? Like, is this the emergence of the GOAT, right? Like that Paige's reign is done and Evelina is now here to say, I'm taking this crown with me back to Europe because I'm going to be here for a decade playing like this. I mean, that's the level of dominance that she has off the tee. And
the capacity is there for her to get to that level.
Yes.
We have seen it in the past. We can see it in the future, but it is time for a coach. Mm-hmm. It is time for someone to work with you on the putting or on the mental side of the game. It is absolutely time. And like, if you're Innova, you should be like, yo, we got somebody for you to talk to. Like, here's this person. Like, I think all the companies should be doing this, like making resources available to their sponsored players to help them with things like their mental game. Like, Innova pays couple $1,000 a year to somebody to be a consultant to talk to their players about, getting over the putting yips. Like, that's an incredibly smart investment from any of these companies. because it's clear that Evelina needs that. And like, it's not fixing itself. It's been enough events now where I feel comfortable saying like, there has to be a solution besides continuing to do the same thing again and again. So hopefully she can snap out of it because, look, she could still go in and do damage at WR Jackson, by the way. Remember, she was in the lead at Waco despite the terrible putting after 2 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy to see the stats, but like her line shaping was so good in the woods and she had so many tap-in birdies because she was throwing it so well that she was still getting those. She was getting the scoring, and it kind of fell apart in the 3rd round. But at WR Jackson, if she throws it like this, she's going to put herself in a position to get those tap-ins, and who knows? Maybe she could win despite shooting under 50% from Circle 1. It's possible. So let's move on. Valerie Mondahano finishes in 4th place this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
She has not missed the top 5 at any tournament since July 2021.
Wow.
When she finished 16th at the D-Glow.
Wow. I know she's been playing well. Okay, the one caveat here, she did have that injury.
She skipped some events.
So she skipped some events. So not quite, complete dumb. Like, okay, but still, this is an amazing stat.
Let me tell you how many events it is.
Okay, all right.
Because then you can judge it a little bit more. So she's had 4 events so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Events.
So 10 events in a row, top 5. Most of which are Elite Series or A tiers. Throw pink, etc.
Huh.
So 10 in a row, including I think six Elite Series. So
that's impressive.
That's
it's amazing.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yep.
And she just continues to look the part. Like,
yes.
Overall, her game has leveled up kind of across the board. The putting numbers are up. The driving numbers are up. Greens and regulation. No matter how you want to slice the numbers, she's just playing better. She's clearly been putting in the work and the time, and it's paying off. And like, her rating hasn't caught up yet, but we are looking at a top 5 player on tour right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the fact that she's been inside the top 5 tells you what you need to know.
She is the real deal, and we are going to be talking about her all season long. And I wish I could know distance, because I feel like I have a hard time. I mean, she has 3 Pro Tour events, 1 Silver Series, 2 Elite Series, and in that Texas stretch, which are the only 3 events she's played thus far, 1st Waco, 2nd Open at Belton, 4th Texas States, I'm not surprised. I mean, Texas is where she plays. It's where she's from. I'm not surprised by this in the slightest. I'm excited to see what happens when we get back to DDO, OTB, and Portland.
I'll be interested to see too, because like you're kind of like, well, you're talking about the distance. I don't think she's the furthest thrower.
No.
And if you look at the stats, I think you see that. She's 11th in parked percentage, 10th in Circle 1 in regulation, 11th in Circle 2 in regulation so far this season. Now, it's only a couple tournaments in of stats, three tournaments for her. But she's 3rd in Circle 1X putting, 1st in scramble, 4th in Circle 2 putting. So it's the combination game, the all-around game, of course, but it is probably the standout part of her game right now is the putting and the ability to save par when out of position. I do think that she will be at more of a disadvantage on the longest bomber tournaments. This tournament had a little bit of that, and she finished fairly far out of the lead. We saw Paige, Katrina, Kristen separate, and I think not only are those just the best players right now, but they also throw further than Val. Mm-hmm. So, speaking of, we got a stat.
Real quick, before we move on,
just
wanted to add the one thing. 2 tournaments that I mentioned in that list, DDO and Portland. Last year, Valerie took 7th and 8th. So, not bad. Still not bad. And, with that elevated game, I think we could see her inside the top 5 still.
Absolutely. You got this one, Josh?
Yeah, I do.
Talking about Kristen and Katrina.
Yeah, talking about some consistency this season. Katrina and Kristen have not missed the podium in 2022. They've been staple picks. That's so impressive. So impressive. That the consistency to play at that kind of a level. I mean, top 5 is incredible. No knock to Valerie by any means, but to continue. And the big thing about it is that I feel like a lot of those Kristen and Katrina were in contention. It wasn't a 7 strokes between leader and them. Right. It was every week one of those two could have won the tournament, even if they didn't.
Dialed. Great play. And I will say, Katrina Allen's putting, it's looking better. Unquestionably.
Yeah.
Unquestionably. The confidence is obvious from Katrina, both Circle 1 and Circle 2.
Yep.
This has never happened before. There have been 4 players at each Elite Series event so far this year with at least a 970 rating in FPO. And obviously, this is because the European players are back. But still, it shows you that the quality at the top has increased.
Mm-hmm.
The challengers to Paige Pierce have increased. The game is as good as it's ever been. And if you're somebody, I mean, I think our listeners appreciate both MPO and FPO. But I know there are people out there who just watch MPO.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recommend that. FPO has been very good this year. Arguably more exciting overall finishes than in MPO.
I've enjoyed FPO coverage better than I've enjoyed MPO coverage thus far.
So I recommend that people watch both. But
yeah,
shout out to Statmando for that stat. All right. Any other notes, Josh? One quick note. Over under. I got one. You got one.
That's right.
Hole 3, no birdies in FPO, 0. Ella Hansen got to Circle 2, almost. I thought Nicholas Antila was going to do it. He was looking good. Even in the final round, I was like, oh man, he's going to get that top 10 spot. But he ended up not quite getting it done in the final round and didn't shoot that great. Ends up finishing 15th. An excellent debut, no doubt. But I take the L on that one.
Yep. Speaking of hole 3, I have some thoughts on this tournament and the FPO course. And I'm tempering my thoughts from what I thought initially. I'm not going to come out and say that this is the worst course I've ever seen for FPO, but I'm still not terribly pleased, and I'll tell you why. Hole 1 had 7 birdies on the tournament. Shout out to Maria Oliva, Paige Pierce, Stacey Ronsley, Chloe Alice, Katrina Allen, Holland Hanley, and Ella Hansen. Hole 2 had 1 birdie in the tournament, and that was Paige Pierce. Hole 3 had 0 birdies in the tournament, and as you mentioned, Ella Hansen was the only fairway hit all weekend, making it to Circle 2. And hole 15 had 5 birdies: Stacey Haas, Paige Pierce, Holland Hanley, Emily Beach, and Henna Blomroos. I'm not sure exactly what the threshold should be in terms of separator holes that give the advantage to distance. And this is something that I think we're going to talk a little bit more about next week. But 4 holes that are just basically unbirdieable for the most part, right? We're talking on 4 holes here, 13 birdies over 3 rounds. So 4 birdies, averaging about a birdie a hole, 1 birdie, I think is not enough. And I think the reason I'm disappointed is if it's a course that we play, and I think that the excuse of, well, we've always played on this course, we're sorry, it's not great for FPO, it's not designed for FPO, but it's been in the ground for decades and this is what we play. That's one thing, right? But to make a temporary course and it's still having holes that are just, and this isn't even to mention 16 and 17 that played so absurdly low to par. Like we're talking like 0.75 strokes under par. But with only 1 eagle. So if you cut the par off a stroke,
right, you still have the same
I put
problem.
it on this list, and I'm yelling about it because it's on this list.
Right.
But so you just add a stroke, and now it's a useless hole either way. So they're not separator holes. That's 5 holes that are just very clearly not separator holes. And if you're going to design a temporary course, we can do better. We can do better for the FPO game to not necessarily say, how do we design it around the MPO game? Okay, now let's walk through it again and see, oh, we'll add a par here. We'll take a par here. Well, I guess this one actually has a T-pad that works. Like it needs to be done, I think, with equal consideration in order to give them both equally good experiences.
Couldn't agree more.
And that's my problem with it.
It's been
right?
an afterthought.
It's an afterthought. And I don't care.
They didn't even start making the changes for FPO until like the players showed up to like play the event.
Yes. Yeah.
And I get it, right? They had Greg Barsby design the course. Oh, obviously he's going to design it for MPO. Well, then you need to ask an FPO player to come and do the same thing, like work together.
Yes.
Come on, man. I agree 100%. It's frustrating. And it's a trend that honestly it's getting better. So like at least there's that. It used to just be like, yeah, play the same tees, whatever. Or like, oh, play from these like children's tees. Like it was a joke in the past. Yeah. But it shouldn't be acceptable at this point to be designing a new layout and not have as a major consideration, not a week of consideration. Like,
yes,
plan it in advance. TDs should be expected to do that. I agree 100%. All right. Points for our picks. Let's go through them really quick. Okay. I got Ricky. I had Ricky, Paul, and Joel Freeman. Joel. So close, man. It was a good pick. I got 5 points for picking Ricky to win. Josh had Paul McBeth, Matty O, Chris Dickerson. That's a big swing and a miss, Josh. We're gonna have to start building in penalties for offers. You have to take the SAT this weekend.
I may quit picking Paul McBeth if I'm going to watch these blow-up rounds happen.
Josh had Katrina Allen, Valerie Mondahano, and Evelina Salonen. It was ambitious with the Evelina pick. Valerie, obviously a good pick, and you get the 1 point for Katrina Allen. I had Kristen Tatar, Paige Pierce, Valerie Mondahano. Oh, God, it was so close to amazing. I get 2 points there, so I get 7 points. Josh gets 1. And remember, you can go to discgolf.ultiworld.com/upshot-picks to check out all our picks, check out how we're doing, pick your over-unders, vote for whose podium you think is the best. And we got a few hundred votes this weekend on the over-unders and such. So let's see if people picked correctly. I actually haven't checked that yet.
It's such a cool website. Please go check this out.
So let's see. 65% of people thought Josh's MPO picks were better than mine. Well, 65% of you take the L as well. 68% liked my FPO picks to Josh's 31%. Nice choices, everybody. 73% voted on the under on FPO birdies on hole 3. And the vote was very close. We had a good number for European MPO players in the top 10. 51% voted over, 49% voted under. So it did end up going under. Josh gets the point.
Yep.
We will soon have a leaderboard. So
that's going to be so fun. I love it.
What are our current point standings?
You had...
It's
7,
22
right?
to 11, Charlie.
22 to 11.
And we each scored 1 in the over-under, so it's 4-3, Charlie, in the over-unders.
Don't worry, Charlie. I'm about to just nail these Silver Series picks. 20 points. 20 points available, 20 points scoring. That's what's happening. I'm calling it now.
All right, here we go to Purse Watch. So, Texas States. $72,550 in the purse. There was $32,500 of added cash.
Largest total purse thus far.
That is correct. That is slightly more than LVC, which had $71,006.
Yep.
MPO winner got $8,000. That's the biggest payout of the season. Mm-hmm. FPO winner got $4,000. That matches both Waco and LVC. Last year, Texas State's a national tour event, not on the DGPT. $55,000 purse. That means it is almost a 31% increase in purse this year, moving over to the DGPT. So that's nice growth. That's the most growth we've seen in a purse from any tournament so far this year.
And I think that that's going to be the number to watch, because it's not just about actual dollar amounts until you start getting to like Ledgestone, right? Ledgestone has so much added cash and such a big purse that even if their growth isn't significant, it's going to take other tournaments a long time to catch up, so it doesn't matter. I think for a lot of tournaments, the number to watch, though, is going to be the purse percentage change from 21 to 2022, because what it demonstrates is an ability to continue to keep up with the rising popularity of disc golf and the value of these tournaments. Even if you have a decent sized purse but are unable to kind of demonstrate the same growth trajectory as other tournaments, I think that will be an important consideration when they're making decisions about the future of these tournaments on the Pro Tour moving forward, and whether or not you're going to be able to keep up for the next 5 years, 10 years, etc.
Let's take a look at Belton. This year's purse, $34,357. So less than half of what we saw at Texas State's. Obviously, it was a Silver Series. $24.70 to MPO winner, $16.60 to the FPO winner. Total purse last year, $36,280. So the purse actually went down by more than 5%. Is this a bad sign, Josh?
I know that we're not the only people talking about whether or not the Texas swing deserves 3 tournaments. And I know we're going to talk more about it next week, or on Thursday show, about kind of the future of Texas and what we think Texas swing.
The future of Texas.
The future of Texas. We're going to talk a little bit more. I love that. That needs to be the podcast title for Thursday's show. The future of Texas.
Beto O'Rourke will be our guest. God, I don't want to talk to that guy. Anyway, continue.
Anyway, only if he joins into the pod standing on a table in a diner. Anyway, the decrease in purse change is not a good sign, because as we know, my favorite interview that we've ever done was when I asked Jeff Spring about Goat Hill in a sub bonus, and he said, when he was talking about how the Silver Series is a trial run for the Pro Tour event. And I asked Jeff, I said, well, Jeff, does that mean that Goat Hill is either going on the Pro Tour or falling off? And it sure ain't going on the Pro Tour. And he's like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Same thing here with Belton, right? It sure ain't going on the Pro Tour, and I think it's making compelling cases as to why it should get dropped off. Both with the Texas swing as well as the purse change. Not a good sign for Open at Belton.
All right, so that concludes our purse watch. We will keep it up. We've got our first major coming up around the corner. Looking forward to seeing what the purse looks like for that. And got a couple Silver Series events coming our way before then. Music City Open this coming weekend. And then is it the Open at Tallahassee? It's a tournament in Tallahassee. I don't remember what the name of it is off the top of my head. We're getting there. We're getting there. That is going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, send us an email, upshot@ultiworld.com, with your thoughts, critiques, and segment ideas for a chance to win one of 5 full year-long subscriptions to Ultiworld Disc Golf. For Josh Mansfield, I am Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you on Thursday. Don't miss our Upshot subscriber bonus. Not subscriber bonus. Don't miss that either. But our Upshot interview series will be with UC Maresma tomorrow. We hope you join us. Talk to you then.